Well, welcome to our next session of Talking Business with the Brilliant Minds of Bunbury. I'm joined on a Friday afternoon, so we're enjoying a wine together. Cheers, David, with a fantastic client of ours and a really good friend of mine, David Dorsett-Lynn. Welcome to the yet to be named podcast, or what would you call it, vlogging session that we're doing. David, let's start with, if you could tell people what your role is at Dorset Retail, and how would you see Retravision as a brand in this local community?
So I'm the Managing Director of Dorset Retail, and we hold the Retravision brand under licence for the next 20 odd years. There's 20 Retravision stores out there. We're head officed out of Bunbury, where I am, and obviously you are. I think Retravision as a brand is a well-known brand in West Australia. It's a brand that's pretty close to its community and its roots. Any store you go to, I'm sure the owner, the franchisee, the proprietor, whoever it is going to have a very close position to the local golf club, the swimming club, probably most of the clubs in the community. So Retravision, I think, is just a part of the community, has been since the early 50s, and will continue to be.
Yeah, it's a great story, isn't it? I mean, it's you've integrated yourself really well into the community, and one of the things that I think that's come out of COVID-19, we've been saying for a long time in business, you know, shop local and look after your local businesses because they'll look after you. I think that's finally got some traction because people are actually starting to realise that that's important now, aren't they?
There's probably a couple of things there. Necessity has meant that consumers have had to shop closer to home in a lot of respects. Yeah. I think a lot of us are going to be measured by what we've done in COVID-19. So we've not had the doors shut once really in that period of time, except for two of our own stores that we weren't sure if there was a staff contact with someone who had COVID-19. Right. So we had a couple of situations where we closed the stores, had commercial cleaners in to disinfect, sent the affected staff member off for 14 days, did all of those things just to make sure that our premises were safe and our staff were safe. But I think the way that companies react and the way you put people's safety first is a fairly important thing. And I don't think all retailers had taken this perhaps as seriously as they should in the first instance. And I don't think all retailers took the necessary steps in stores to make sure that the customer coming in could clean their hands properly, could clean their hands when they left as well, and feel like if they had touched something in a store that they weren't walking out, perhaps being infected with something. So I think a lot of companies will end up being measured by how they performed during COVID-19 and how they were seen by their consumers to protect them.
That's one thing that you've done very well. I mean, I've been in store a couple of times. What do you think's worked really well for you over the last little while, apart from you know, the sanitising and so on as people enter and leave the store?
Well, I think you've got to be real at the end of the day. A good mate of mine who's got fantasies in Busselton will always say, the thing is the consumer can figure out who's genuine and who's not genuine, right? And everything we've done in this business has been about our genuine concern for people. It's been about, I've been out on Easter Saturday delivering fridges myself because we had consumers with broken fridges that our contractors wouldn't go into anybody's house for fear of getting COVID-19. But how does an 82-year-old woman get a fridge off their front lawn? Yeah. Or should they perhaps plug it in on their front lawn and run it for COVID-19, and then we'll pop around at the end of it and stick it in her kitchen for her because then we can go inside. So I've been tremendously proud of the people in the business because it's not just me. Everybody in the business has thought about, if this was my grandmother, my mother, my disabled brother who's in a wheelchair, what would happen to them? So we've seen our staff go over, above and well beyond to help people. And I think we've made it really clear in store. When we take a step back, we've said to people, look, we're trying to stay a little bit further away from you because we don't want to give you anything. We've kind of tried to make it non-offensive, but make sure that people feel comfortable and understand that we're trying to do everything we can to protect them.
You've done a great job with that. And in fact, before COVID-19, I experienced that sort of service myself from Retravision. So you're right. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk in that regard. And it's something that we tried to do at RMS when we had a lot of clients cancelling advertising and things of that nature. We tried to just be there to support and not worry about, okay, what's going to look after RMS or look after Glenn Doust, as the case may be. But if we look after the clients in turn, that will look after us. So I think it's really good to hear that's actually coming back to you. Would you have any recommendations? I mean, how are you tackling the current situation? Have you got any recommendations, broadly speaking, that you might offer to other business owners?
Yeah, our circumstances are a little bit unique because we're exposed to the homewares and commodity business, and very much something that people think they need if their fridge breaks, their washing machine breaks, their television breaks. They've moved home for work and they need another computer monitor. So we've been very fortunate that we've probably been exposed to the more positive elements of COVID-19 as a retailer. And I just have absolute empathy for people who have seen their circumstances change in this. And I think the main thing is really think clearly, plan, think about how you're going to reposition your business. I think that for some time, we're going to see a transition of where people spend their money. It's going to be spent more in their village. So we just all need to make sure that we've positioned ourselves appropriately to take advantage of that. Take advantage actually probably isn't the right word. To be there, to be ready, to be willing to help the customer. I think if you're in the travel industry, it's a real struggle street for a long period of time, but it's a big industry and a lot of that money is going to get dislocated and spent in other areas, whether it's your 75-year-old grandmother who decides she can afford a new car because she's not going to Europe this year. Whether it's as simple as just that football trip to Melbourne's off, so maybe I'll go and buy myself the best pot set I can buy because my cooking utensils aren't good enough. Or you're going to spend that money on the tyres on the car. Money gets spent, right? And for those people who are lucky enough to have a job, we're going to spend it in different ways to how we spent it 4 months ago. And we're going to plan different things. So we're going to be a bit more village oriented, in my opinion.
So in terms of when you say you need to be ready for that, is that like in a marketing sense? Is that in a physical sense as far as your store is concerned, or?
Yeah, look, I think so. I've shared this with you before. I think the moment you make a customer laugh, which if you're blessed with a face like mine's not that hard.
Well, I've always had a good head for radio, which is...
Yeah, both of us. But I think once you make a customer laugh and you've made that genuine connection, then there's an opportunity there for a transaction. I think at the moment, if you're going, in my opinion, if you're going to market, it's about marketing those genuine things about your business. What are you good at? Who are you? Where do you fit in? And that's what I would be trying to do.
Well, I'd like to think a few people have had a good laugh at particularly my first effort at this, so this one might fit in pretty well as well. What do you think is going to change forever out of this?
I think the real deal is a big issue for businesses. I think there's a lot of businesses out there that are sometimes corporate businesses, and they make decisions that make a lot of sense when you're sitting on the 31st floor of a building in Melbourne, right? But when you go out and you see how it's been implemented, and it's probably inappropriate to say the name of the chain, but you know they make burgers, and I marvel at the fact that if you go in there to get a coffee, there's so many parts of what they're doing are there to provide the customer with a theatre that they're doing something. But if you watch what they do with their gloves, they're actually not protecting me. They're taking someone's money with their gloves. Then they're handling my cup with their gloves. Then they're scratching their ear with their gloves. Then they're getting their pen out of their pocket with their gloves. Then they're handling my cup again with their gloves. So it's not been, in my opinion, some of these things haven't been well executed. And I think people who are very close to their business, who are local, who are within their business have got an opportunity just to do things a whole lot better than you can do if you're in the corporate world. Imagine your surprise if you went to a large retailer and they'd been sent the large sign to put at the front door, and the instructions basically said, figure out how big your shop is, divide it by 4, and that's the number of customers you can have in there. So if you had a 2,000 square metre shop, you can have 500 customers. Well, many shops could never deal with 500 customers at once. They're built for possibly 30 or 40, but they've done silly things like put a sign at the front door that says 500 people can come in here at once. That'll be okay. I think for a lot of people that doesn't resonate. It's not okay. And I think that the businesses that have been seen to take this seriously, the businesses that seem close and agile to what they do, who want to help their customers and genuine, are the ones that will come out of this a little better off.
Yeah. So really pretty much everything from this conversation comes back to empathy and comes back to looking after the customer. And if you look after the customer, that'll come back to you and keep you in business.
I think there's many, many people out there, Glenn, that have proved that over a long period of time, before you, before me, and there'll be many after us who will prove that if you look after the customer, you won't be surprised. They'll just keep coming back. Yeah.
Dave, it's been great catching up. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us on our Brilliant Bunbury Mines tour. And I think it'll be Dennis Sprigg that we'll be catching up with next from Southwest Isuzu. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.